some review I had done over the weekend in terms of both overtime budgets. And the information I received from Town Hall is that on the fire side, that over the last 3 years, the fire department has underspent their overtime budget by 8%. By just doing some quick math this evening, the $40,000 decrease to their overtime budget is a 6% decrease to that particular budget. On the police side, it's an 8% decrease, and with the hope and expectation that they'll get at least 75% back. I don't believe it's a lot to ask. If you take a look at what was recently published in the transcript out of the 50 top salary earners in town, and I have an issue with names being published. I don't think it's really appropriate that names be published. However, if you take a look at that list, and I have, although there are school administrators on that list, there's not one school teacher on that list. Although I have an issue with school contracts and step increases, that's for another day. Children shouldn't be punished because the teachers have in their contracts step increases on a yearly basis. Likewise, on the town side, there's various buybacks, vacation leave buybacks, sick leave buybacks that I have issue with, and hopefully we can make some progress with that. However, you take a look at the 50 top salary earners. I just have to grab my note here. I believe it's in the back. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going off memory. I believe on the police side, there's probably upwards of 18 police officers that were one of the top 50 salary earners. And on the fire side, there were, I believe, 13 firefighters that are top 50 salary earners. This was $90,000 or more. And once again, there was not one school teacher on that list. Once again, I don't begrudge anyone for making as much as they can in whatever chosen profession that they choose to work in. However, I think we have an obligation in the community to educate our children as best as we possibly can so that they can be the firefighters, police officers, nurses, doctors, engineers, and if I may say, lawyers of tomorrow. They choose to go into the profession that I chose to go in. So I think, given a look at our total budget, an $80,000 shift out of public safety over to the school side to close that gap so that our kids will no longer be a yo-yo in the system, I think it's a sacrifice that everyone should jump on board and accept.
Maybe a little better education, they'll skip the lawyer bit. But
Chief Harris.
My name is Chief Harris, I'm not the fire chief. I kind of, exception to the overtime thing. My department has been bare bones manpower since 1967. Every time somebody takes a day off, I have to fill it. I can't even run the ambulance with enough people to get out the door. That's why the overtime is large. I've asked and I've asked and I've asked. The chiefs prior to me have asked for manpower. We've asked for it. We're unable to get it. So we do it with overtime. We work as hard as we can. They get paid overtime, absolutely. But they do a great job. They provide a service for the community. And yes, they do make a lot of money. They get paid for what they do. Absolutely. My other question is why can't the money come out of the reserve account and pay for this monies that we don't have here or whatever to make the $80,000 up? And then have that monies, when it comes back, be transferred back into the reserve account. I don't understand that. There's money in the reserve account, and yes, the fire department has turned money back because we work as economically and as best as we can to turn money back. That's my job. My job is to maintain the personnel that I have and turn the money back if I don't spend it. And the history has shown that we've worked as hard as we can, and yes, we do turn money back. Some years, we overspend our budget because we have fires, we have large incidents. But yes, we do. We try to put it back. If we don't spend it, we turn it back in. But
Chief,
yes.
the information I have is correct, though. On average, over the last 3 years, you've turned back 8% of your overtime budget in
I
dollars.
don't have that formula in my hand. I don't have that, to be honest. I honestly can't answer that question.
And I agree. The department, both departments do a terrific job in this community. There's no question about that. And they deserve what they get when they work. However, I think when you put things on balance, education should come out on top. That's my point of view. My fellow board members may think differently. That's just my point of view.
I believe in education.
I-
I've gone to school. I went to high school. I went to grammar school from here and gone through North Reading school system. Absolutely. They do a great job. But Don't turn around and say my people don't do a good job because they're getting paid high money for it.
I never said your people don't do a great job. Never said that. And I also didn't say they didn't deserve to earn what they're earning. However, I think, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, a $40,000 hit to your overtime budget at this point in time is a small amount to pay, especially where probably gonna get that reimbursed in October. At least a good percentage of that will get reimbursed.
And my flood money was $38,000 I spent this year. Of that, you get 75% back, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, why can't we take it out of the reserve account, balance the budgets? When the money comes in, put it back in the reserve account, and if I don't spend the money, I'm turning it back to you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I may.
Mr. Yule?
Yes, thank you. I think Mr. Delaney makes some very cogent points about education. I feel very strongly about education as well. I also feel very strongly about safety. Circumstances create our scenario, make us make decisions that maybe we don't want to make. Maybe we don't want to reduce safety. We definitely don't want to reduce education to our students. With this kind of an environment, we have to come up with some idea to make things work. And I think there are two ideas that are presented to us. The fire chief makes a good suggestion. I think the TA, with his expertise, has gone through these numbers, has worked very hard on these numbers, and he wanted to try to find a balance that we could cover the education of our students without hurting our safety programs severely, okay? We have a situation here where we are all taking cuts, and if unfortunately there's a reduction in the overtime and we're forced to do that, then everybody has to take part in that. So we're able to satisfy some of our educational needs, even though they're basic needs as far as I'm concerned, yet we're still able to maintain some of our overtime, but maybe not at such a high level as some would want. So I think your recommendation is a good one, Mr. PA, and that we can go forward. And hopefully, as we progress and we start to cut these corners and save a dollar here and there, as we progress, 2012 doesn't look any better, I understand that, but we still got to get over that hump. We get to 213. Maybe all these savings that we are, initiatives that we are taking will help us in that direction, along with creating some revenue opportunities as we progress too. So we got a lot on our table. We've been working hard all year to do that. This is just one little step that will help us get to that end that we are trying to get to, which is quality education for our children and a safe community and a strong infrastructure for our town.
Can I have one more time, Bob?
Of course.
I just want to make something perfectly clear. I am not opposed to education, and everybody knows that. But I am strong on the public safety. And I think both chiefs have asked a good question, why couldn't it come out of the reserve fund? And I'll give you what I think my answer is, because it'll be gone out of public safety if they take it out of there. Even if it's at a 75% reimbursement, they're not going to get back what's been taken away. And, but I do want to make that perfectly clear. I've always supported education. Thank you.
A lot of people here. Any other comments, ideas, thoughts?
Mrs. Bailey,
Mr. Webster or Mrs. Varga?
One of the benefits of postponing town meeting till June was to get a better handle on the revenues, the receipts, and certainly through our finance planning meetings, we've been wrestling with those receipts down to trying to estimate motor vehicle excise tax. And, you know, that's under $100 a car, basically, and we're getting that down to that dime to try and get every dollar we can put out there for budgets. But what it's also done is it's given us another quarter of actual spending to get a look, a new glimpse of what it's costing to run departments. Certainly, the school department has gone through that whole exercise this year. In light of changes that are happening in our department, we've got 3 administrators that are leaving, and we've already committed to reducing those salaries and offering a smaller salary scale to whatever candidates we interview. So when the Board of Selectmen has a proposal where they've identified money in a budget, and I don't want it to be a school budget versus fire or police, but I have to yield to them. They look at the general government budgets. This easily could have been overtime from the DPW budget. This easily could have been reducing the hours at the library. It could have been a mix of things. But these folks have gone through their budget exercises. They have looked at the actual expenses now for a little bit longer in this budget process that has bumped us to June. And they've put an idea on the table. What it's done for the school budget, it's put $80,000 back into the revenue stream that will allow us to close our gap. Now, we're not walking away with level services, but we're not at level funded, for which we are deeply grateful. And we're also very grateful for the support for our textbook purchases. But we're not at level services. We've made some cuts. We've cut in areas to the extent that should the parents come back at a future meeting saying kindergarten with 24 kids is too much, this year we could not put a kindergarten teacher in place in August if we didn't have this assistance for $80,000. We've also let go a number of paraprofessionals through retirement in our budget. What drives our paraprofessional staff are student education plans. Rather than sending them to an outplacement district or forming a very small classroom with an expensive teacher, we go the route of signing them a special education paraprofessional. If we don't get this $80,000, because we've gone and pitched pennies in every single corner, we could not meet the needs of many of those ed plans, either driving people back out of our district or taking away from regular education classes. This last $80,000 gap that we need to close has got us down to the penny where we would be very hard-pressed to turn the heat back above 60 in the schools, because the next item is the utility budget, and we already pinch pennies there. So we're very appreciative of any effort you can do to close this gap. And we'll yield to you guys as knowing where it's best found in your budget and how you'll manage that budget in the upcoming year.
And,
Mr. Webster?
if I could just add, we talked to the selectmen earlier, we talked at our hearing last week, and talked about the fact that the schools are still at the 2004 spending level for school budgets, or building budgets. They're actually we're gonna cut 40,000 from those budgets next year. So I don't know what year that's gonna bring them back to. Just wanna highlight some of the cuts we've made. We're probably not gonna replace some paraprofessionals who are retiring. We expect to save about $100,000, as Mrs. Vaca talked, by replacing administrators with hopefully lower salary administrators. We have a proposal to cut professional development. It's not something that I don't think anybody in the school committee is happy about, and we're gonna have to discuss that. Administrative salary savings, again, new superintendent will be paid at a lower rate. So we've gone through, and the other thing is we've got a number of, as these are, a number of one-time revenue sources that we're gonna be using to fund the budget this year that won't be available next year. I too am highly appreciative of what the selectmen have done. I think the finance planning team is just a great tool that, as Greg mentioned earlier, gets everybody working together. It won't be a level services budget, but it'll be as close to level services as we can get, and I don't think we're going to see any major issues or disruptions in the school system next year based on the budget as presented tonight.
Thank you, Mel. Anybody in the audience? Gentleman in the rear.
Hi, Dan Driscoll from West Main Drive. I'm not close enough to the fire or police to say that Mr. Leon is right or wrong about the amount of hits that the organizations have taken. I think the chiefs will probably be closest to that. But I can speak for education. Education in this town has taken a hit year after year after year. We've been here 4, 5, 6 years in a row talking about education in this